Alright, well, today's project at hand is this little short piece of 16-inch beam here. We got to mark these. You can see they have a miter edge to them right here, just a few degrees short. We're going to chop off 16 inches on both ends of this one and another one to make some. These 16-inch pieces are going to be brackets that we're going to weld to our columns, and that's going to hold up the remaining 16 inches. And where that is going to go is right up there. So we're going to have one of our 16-inch shelf brackets, I guess you could call it, welded right there. We're going to skip the center beam and we're going to weld another one right there. And what we're going to do is we're going to take these are 30 something footers right now. I have to remeasure them once we get them cut, but anyhow, we're going to cut these, and whatever's left we're going to stretch them 10-11 feet, whatever it ends up being, because and I have to get a hard measurement. We're supposed to be 40 feet from here to there, but I think the form boards got out of whack, so from the second row we may need to be a few inches off, but we'll measure that before we actually add our extensions on. So first step, we're going to chop some 16s off of this one, get another one off our trailer way over there, set it up, chop 16s off of it. We'll measure those, and then we'll measure the ceiling and get a total length and extend them accordingly. And once we get them butted together and welded up, we can winch them up the center I-beam and we'll weld them up. Y'all don't mind the mess in the shop. How you like that? We don't even have the shop finished and it's already full and cluttered. But anyway, we'll get on to this project. We had a little change on that project, update on that project, so it's a bunch of stuff going on. We just putting them out as fast as we can. All right, let me set y'all up. We're going to do some time lapse. You know, cutting I-beams is going to be kind of boring, so I'll do some time lapse. Let y'all listen to some tunes, and that way I can listen to some tunes. And we'll get these chopped off and get another one chopped off and continue on. Alright, we back on the beams today. So we cut our 16-inch chunks off of these two. So they're both 29 feet 1 inch. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 2 more of these so everything is squared off. So we're going to do 2 more 16s, lopping off each end, and then the remaining 29 feet we're going to dice up, and I'll have to measure pole to pole and double check that we are you know, not an inch or 2 off or something. And once we get the ends cut off, I'm going to cut the beam in the pieces that we need to add to these, so total length will be the total length of the building, and then we'll start putting them together. We're going to have to miter these probably on the upper and lowers. What I'm going to do is kind of what we did on the beams up in the roof up there, which we'll notch out a little bit here and here, and we'll put a little fish plate and leave a gap with a bevel and fill it in, so we got a continuous weld, and then we'll attach the center with a brace. And when we go to hang them, you know, we'll have 10 feet added to this 30 feet basically, and 10 feet added to this 30 feet. So we'll stagger our additions so the seams don't end up in the same place carrying the weight. All right, I'm gonna chop that off, and then we'll start measuring some of this. I'm not gonna show you chopping these off. It's the same as what we just did here. Once I get to measuring and cutting the beams, we'll come on back. I wanted to show you guys exactly what we're doing here. So we're cutting some reliefs right here. This with the angle is going to be the top. The trolley is going to ride on this. So we're going to have, if you look down, let's see if it'll show. It's kind of hard to see, but there's about we tried to leave this sticking out 1/8 of this, and this will be more obvious when we cut the bevel in here with the grinder. And we're going to cut a bevel this way. Again, this is going to be the bottom, so or the top rather. Once we butt these two together with the other plate, these two should be pretty much touching. We're going to bevel them. This is going to have about a 1/4 inch gap, and we're going to put a runoff plate and a runoff plate, and then that way when we weld these up, this will be a continuous weld all the way through because of the gap we're leaving, and welding onto the runoff plate, and then we'll weld this pretty much continuous. So we may put a little patch or a little splice for extra support. We'll see how that goes. But that's what we're doing. So again, this is the bottom, and you know, there'll be a 1/4 inch gap with a bevel cut here. Okay, well, the bevel is actually going to be cut here, and then we're going to put maybe a 1 inch piece of flat bar by inch by 1/8, inch by 3/16. Doesn't have to be much, just enough to fill in the gap to let you get your weld going. And then we're just going to fill in and fill in and fill in this gap. Same thing over here, and then we'll weld all of this in too. So it'll make sense as we get a little closer. You also need to pay attention to your adjacent piece. That's why I put them all in the same spot so that we can see. And you can see right here, this is a little high. Well, no, that's supposed to be high. Okay, it's kind of confusing to me too. I don't do this every day. So we're doing our bevel here. This will be the bottom, and this will be the top when this is standing vertical, and this is proud about 1/8 of an inch. And so this will butt to the middle of the other one, and this will butt to the middle of the other one. We'll fill this in, and that gives you a continuous weld on these, top and bottom, and we'll tie in all of this on both sides. And if I can point the camera in the right direction. So we'll have continuous welds across these and this here with possibly a patch. We'll see how this comes out. And then all we'll have to do is buff the welds down where the trolley wheels will track, so we don't end up with a little speed bump. And then what I'm going to do is I have this one sitting over here with the overhead lift over it. All right, and so when we get this one done, that's why I orientated this the same way. So this is sitting on jack stands, but I can eyeball this, make the bevels match, and then we'll just bring these together, butt them up, line them up, clamp them, tack them real good where we can weld them, and also tack them real good so that you don't get any heat warpage any more than you possibly can. And then we can, you know, weld here, there, flip them over, whatever we need to do. And that's gonna be round 2 over there laying on the ground. And then the fun thing is gonna be getting these 40-foot beams all the way up there. But baby steps, one step at a time. So that's what we're doing here. I'm not gonna sit here and watch and let y'all watch hours of shaping and grinding, but I'm gonna finish beveling this one. This one should be good. Needs a little grinding at the end. The end grinding I'll probably wait on. We'll probably set this up and get these on jack stands once this is done, and so forth. Alright guys, I need to try and get these beams back under the shop because I've got to do a little gravel work from the rain. And so what I'm going to try and do is back this one up a little bit, and then we're going to line up the long one and get them real close, see how they're starting to fit. So I'll show y'all how we move them around with this rolling gantry I got, and we'll get on that, and I'll show you how the joint is going to look after we get into it. And it's going to take me a little while to do it, so I'm going to go ahead and throw y'all on time lapse, and that'll make it a little less long and drawn out. So we got our 29 footer here. I'm working the fancy tripod thing, and our 10 footer here, and we got to close this gap. So I got to come along, set up, and we're gonna see if that'll pull it. I got a little bit of, I'm gonna take a little bit of weight off of here. We don't want to lean the jack stands, but we just need to close off this 1/2 inch gap. Once we get that all butted up, then we can start clamping and lining stuff up. Let's see if this works. Okay, I'm gonna lift up on the 20 footer a little bit and see if everything will kind of shift and get right. And I'll back y'all up in case things shift and get wrong. That is known to happen around here from time to time. Alright, that might have been it. Let's see. Yep. Let me bring y'all over there where y'all can see. So we just went up just a hair on the chain fall to lighten it up on these 2 jack stands, and it'll slide over. And there it is. Now it's a little twisted, but it's closed in good enough, so I'm gonna put the weight back down off of that, and then we can clamp it. And again, as you can see, we're gonna be kind of butt welding this, and then we'll plate this. And I'll show y'all how we're gonna set that up in a little bit. All right, now here's a look at what we came up with. So I got a couple of 4x4s. We're clamped. We got our 1/4 inch gap here. We got some weldable gap here, but I want to be able to be full pin there too. Now it's gonna be hard to make out. This right here is about a 9 foot or 8 foot straight edge. Let me hold him up a little bit so you can see it was a little gapped, and got him checked out there, and then I ran it here, and with a couple of love taps with the BFH here in this direction, we line that up. And so we're going to check it on the flat here, which is not as critical, because again, we're going to be rolling on this bottom side. So as long as we got even transition here for the trolley to go across, we're in good shape. And really it's just the top side of this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to make the runoff plates to go here and here, and we're going to weld those in, and we're going to tack a whole bunch of this to where we can roll it and flip it and weld it on all sides, and then we're going to get into it. And we may end up using a fish plate here, since we got a pretty good little gap, 1/8 of an inch to maybe 3/16. I'm either gonna double side that, or I may fish plate it. We'll see. But we're gonna put runoff plates here and runoff plates here, because this will be the top, and our bevels, you can barely make them out right there and right there. So everything's looking true. So we got her all clamped up. We'll get her welded where she can't move and where she's stout enough to be able to flip over. And once we get that done, we'll measure center, pick her up, and probably set her on the ground once we get her welded where these two pieces are steady, to be able to do some flip-de-doos and rollovers on the ground. Alright guys, I wanted to show y'all these runoff tabs. So we got backing plates for this full pin right here, and then we may need back in here. I'm going to try and stitch this up. We'll see how that goes. And then I have a backing plate there. Everything's been clamped in. Let me go around. So on these runoff tabs, you just let them hang off past everything. You can cut them flush later, because you want to be able to start your weld before you get to the I-beam down here, let's say, you know, and weld in, you know, we're talking about welding in this gap right here. But you start past the I-beam and then weld past the I-beam and just stitch it together. So we got it all wire wheeled and clamped in. Everything's still looking straight. So we're gonna go ahead and burn all this in. Yeah, this is where we at. So we did this pass when it was laying flat, and y'all excuse the pressure washer in the back. We got this going on up here. Don't worry, but that little porosity was from a strike, and it's actually on the runoff plate that we're gonna cut off. So we got that, and we got may have a little bit more to do here, I'm gonna have to grind it a little bit because the trolley wheels are gonna roll over this, so we're gonna want that smooth. So I don't want it high, but I don't want it low either. So that's basically, let me go show y'all the other side. So that's basically splicing the beams. It's the same thing we did on the beams in the roof of the shop for the few of them that we had that were too short. So we're gonna regrind this and make a big hot pass with the big welder. I did that with the MIG, kind of upside down, just to tack it in a few spots. And then this wasn't even welded with the MIG, this was welded from the other way. So we'll get that way, that'll be a full pin too, and we'll do the same thing here and then cut these runoff plates off and roll this one out and do the next one. Alright guys, I don't remember how much of this I got the other day, but so we got our additional beam here, and of course it's all cattywampus and not lined up. So what I'm gonna do is, I got it kind of suspended and everything's a little wet this morning, so I might do a little touch-up grinding here just to check my fit. You know, I want a bevel, but this can have just a little gap, and we'll have our big gaps on the end. So I have a jack stand there and one way over there, so there will be a little dip. You know, you think these beams are, you know, big heavy beams, but they do flex. So I have a jack stand under the seam right here, and the V is gonna catch both seams, and then I can adjust here. So we're gonna check for level, which this one is almost spot on, but we got a little tweaking to do, and then I'm gonna catch on film how we level this out. I'm sure there's better ways to do it, but this is what I figured out. And then once we get her leveled out, we'll put our runoff plates here and here and get a good clamp on everything. Alright guys, so what I did is I just let them butt up, and I cut this with a torch, so there was a few little wibbly-wibblies in there. So we butted it up, took the cutoff wheel and trimmed it, and then rebutted it, trimmed it again. So these are pretty straight, but then I did grind off some of my bevel, so we came back and put the bevel on it. So anyhow, all we got to do now, all I'm gonna do now, just basically put my jack stand back under here with one part of the V here and one here, level off the long piece, and then level up and true the short piece and clamp it. And all I'm using for that is a 4-foot, my 4-foot level, and you can see right there I got a 1x2 piece of aluminum that we kind of use around here as a straight edge. So I'm gonna straight edge this, inside, outside, whatever, and get it as plumb and true as I can and clamp it into place. So that's just going to be a lot of trial and error, adjusting, tweaking, whatever. So we'll get it all clamped in, and then I'll show you where we're at. Alright, good morning guys. Today's project, we got to get this beam that we welded up and get it up there in the ceiling. So first things first, I have center marked out here. This has a 4-inch angle iron on top of it, so we got a 5-inch notch we're going to cut out. That way our grab point with the winch line can't move, so we don't have a chance of this thing getting off balance and sliding one way or the other. So we're going to notch this out, and then at the far end and over here, what I did is I marked it. Let me move the torch. So we got set, we marked, we're going to cut, let's see here, we're going to cut 7 inches down on the flat and then taper up to 16 inch. And what that's going to do, let me see if I can get up here where y'all can see. We have a foot of the bar joist up there, and the column is 6 inches, so we're going to overshoot it a little bit. So we have 7 inches and then taper up, and that hopefully will miss the sheet metal. We may have to trim it a little more, but my first ichrometer guesstimation is that this should be enough trimming off of this to get it to fit. So once we get this trimmed, we're going to get the beam up in here and rig it for a lift. So we'll take y'all along for the ride, see what happens.
Well guys, I don't want to be the one to break it to y'all, but what y'all looking at here is a 3-ton overhead bridge crane. We're gonna be setting up in the first bay of the shop here, and the beginning stages of it, we're here dismantling these roller pulleys and getting all the greased up and everything. But we'll set you up on a tripod, just get you a little montage of this. Well guys, what I put together so far, I was fighting the other side, but only one of these pulleys will have this open-ended C-clip. The other one's more like a traditional C-clip. But the trick was to take the jam nut off of this one side, hit it forward a little bit. That'll give this enough slack to drop out the bottom. That way I can see if I can pull the axle through on this one side. And then on the next we'll slide it out the front. Need a little persuasion. Alright, well I got a whole bunch of washers. I'm gonna try to put it through on this side. See how that works out. Splendid already. Okay. I don't see the problem. Now it's pulling. Now she's pulling. All right, y'all. Something like that. As you can tell, these bearings have seen better decades. Cool. We'll do the same on the other side. Or I might just drive a rod through there now that we get to it. guys, this is the last set we gotta do. Last side, I should say. I'm just verifying that I got a picture. Make sure how many washes and everything we got on each side. And when we go back together, it should be not an issue.
All right, guys, we're pulling the wheels off, as you've been seeing on the crane. The bearings are all rusted and seized up, so we're taking it all down, trying to figure out how all this comes apart. And we're gonna get new bearings for the trolleys and get the crane up. So it's just they have a grease zerk on the end. We're pulling that off, 2 jam nuts, and the rest of it is pretty much washers, except for a little clip on the opposite end. We'll show y'all once we get it cleaned up how that goes. But anyhow, we're gonna get back to pulling these, and we'll come back to you when we get to the cleanup, because we're gonna be beating and a banging.
Missed out. All right, guys. This morning we are pressing forward with this gantry build, literally. But as you can see, the weather is not quite on our side, but that's okay. We're gonna go ahead and get all the races and all of the trolley wheels and start getting everything prepped. So bring y'all along for the adventure. Okay, guys, so at a previous date with a little better weather, we got all these races out, and I took one of them and cut a slit out of it. And so we're gonna go back in with our new ones and use this as our install tool. It just gives it some flex. So we'll go ahead and time lapse it, pressing it on the 20-ton press over there. All right, guys. Figured I'd show y'all one in real time. Go ahead and re-wipe and re-grease our surface. Like I said, we did a lot of prep work beforehand. To get to this point, what I'm so we'll go ahead and put a light film of grease on the outside of our bearing here. Alright, the race. Got our old race. Alright, so we got our new race, our old race, and our pressing device. So we can fit it all in here. Fell into place like that. And then we pop our old one out, and we have a new race. We'll do that once more on that wheel and 7 more times, and we'll be about done with that step. Okay guys, we are once again using our Harbor Freight bearing packer to pack these here bearings. 10 out of 10 would definitely recommend. It's a lot better than doing it with your palm. But we'll go ahead and orient it right and then screw it on down. Get it a little snug, and I'm gonna need another rag. Then you wanna give her till she quits giving. And that's about right, I guess. And then we should have a nicely packed bearing. Somewhat. Alright folks, so we'll get these 4 bearings in one side of the trolley and then we'll hang them in the ceiling.